music when you've got porn stars, eh?
That's right.
Yeah, so yeah, it's been a mad day here, man. It's been probably one of the hottest days of the year. So it's so everyone's pooped out here. Do you know what I'm saying? England doesn't do sunshine, so yeah. So if I'm sort of like looking a bit sort of dumbfounded, it's because of that,
It's because
basically.
it's
Do you know what
heat.
I'm saying? So,
The heat, baby.
yeah. But apart
So,
from that,
so,
are you guys good?
oh yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Samantha's
Right.
gonna jump off here in just a few because she's got to go hang out with Dan and do
Mm-hmm.
international live. But how do we get in touch with you on social media and Instagram and everything so Samantha can tweet your stuff and
Just
promote your
it's Dara,
stuff?
DAR.RA, Dara, and the label's called Kushdeep Music. So yeah, if you pump those into Google, man, you'll find all the music and all the videos and all the books and all the rest of it. So yeah, lots going on. Do you know what I'm saying?
So,
Great.
um,
Searching.
where do you see your career in a couple of years now that everybody's starting to get back to live performing and everything?
You know what? I just keep creating. Really, I don't have expectations and sort of plotting and planning. It's really just about what I'm feeling and what I think is kind of right for that moment to put out. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that as John Lennon once said, life happens when you're busy making other plans. You know what I mean? And I think so. I think it's a question because like you can't sort of judge where life's going to take you. So.
Yes.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So
Yes.
I know I've got I have kind of a short-term plot of like what I'm creating and what I want to create, and then as I say, I'll do that, and then I'll move forward from then, like just kind of almost house to house kind of fighting. Do you know what I'm saying? Not looking at the big
That's
battlefield.
awesome.
Do
That's
you know?
awesome. So, you have done a heck of a lot in your short time as a musician. Uh, Talk to me about some of your musical influences, musical heroes, and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, most musicians would have probably had some sort of early, influences of material music or families playing music. Do you know what I mean? So, I've got kind of like influences that would be like Mozart and Beethoven and anyone that's kind of cranking a tune out with a penny whistle. Do you know what I mean? It can come from kind of anywhere. Do you know what I mean? In terms of sort of like influences. But the usual suspects, the kind of classic British rock and roll of the 60s and sort of 70s, a lot of soul, particularly American soul music from that same period. All the usual suspects from Stax to Motown to Mr. James Brown. Um,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so all the usual suspects with a little bit of kind of cream thrown on top. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, but it's a smorgasbord. I think that if you're not digging into everything that's happening on the planet, then you're probably missing a trick. Do you know what I mean? Because like the man on the corner that's kind of knocking out a 12 bar will do something that you go, geez, that's pretty cool. So he can be an influence or she can be an influence. I think you just got to be open to kind of everything that's happening around you.
That's great. You have accomplished a heck of a lot with some of the different things that you've been doing. What's been the feedback that you've gotten on your music and everything so far?
I mean, it's been constant. I was signed to EMI in the 90s, so it's been sort of ongoing since then. Really, do you know what I mean? Like, it's different magazines, different journalists across the times that have kind of followed me and supported me, and radio stations across the board. So yeah, it's been kind of ongoing. It's I think that now we live in a day and age of a lot more independent kind of like obviously artists, but also outlets as well. Has like really made the game kind of a little easier to kind of get your vibe out there, rather than the old school gatekeepers that would you'd have to be signed to a major to kind of get in. So now you can kind of and also with technology, look at what we're doing now. It's phenomenal. in the wonderful America, the United States of America, and I'm sort of in sunny England at the moment, which is a bit of an anomaly to say sunny England because it's not normally sunny, but we are enjoying a bit of sunshine at the moment. But yeah, so it's technology is allowing us to kind of open up avenues that probably weren't, there. Well, they weren't there sort of 10, 15 years ago, really. Do you know what I mean? So world's your oyster at the end of the day. It's how much you allow yourself to be successful, isn't it? Really, do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes, I completely agree. So with your music, you have had a lot of folks that have checked your music out. Where do you primarily get your fans from?
I don't sort of think of people as fans. It's sort of almost like kind of more of a sort of, I know it's going to sound like a cliche, but it's more of a sort of family vibe. Do you know what I mean? That it's more sort of people that become friends over a period of time. And, like I've got a lot of people on different platforms that sort of stay in tune. And as I say, I don't really sort of see them as kind of fans. They're just kind of family, become, close. And we can, I've met so many people again that, we've gone through this period of time, this last 12 months of, whatever you want to call it, a psyop or whatever it is, you know what I mean? We've gone through this and people that I've not met before, but we've stayed in contact and sort of, we're asking each other how you're doing. Just simple stuff like that, do you know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
Picking up in the background there.
No,
But yeah,
you're good.
so,
You're good.
so fans it's not really a fan thing. It's more of a sort of like, community. Do you know what I mean? Like, because everyone does something that's really important and really interesting, and it's I'm looking to see sort of what other people do and what how can we kind of collaborate. You know what I mean? And that's another thing that's been amazing about the whole kind of internet period that we now live in. Like I'm able to sort of work with people all around the world. Like, even on the last two projects, I've had like American drummers, American musicians on kind of tracks that, I'm sending them out the stems from my studio. They're sending me back the drums, like on a track, the latest track, which will be out in August to follow up Kings and Surf EP. We just had a drummer from the States kind of do an amazing drum tracks on this song No Time for Tears, and it's just really exciting period of time to be alive. Do you know what I mean? Like, to be able to do that again. I mean, I work with one of the engineers producers that did Ebony and Ivory with Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
And they did that down a telephone line back in the sort of whenever it came out. Do you know what I mean? And I worked with him doing some tracks because he's got a studio not far from here, and he was sort of telling me, do you know what I mean, that was one of the very first records ever made in a transatlantic kind of way. Now we can do it at lightning speeds. And it's those sort of pioneers that have really kind of opened the doors for where we are now, and so I've got great engineer. I've got an engineer. So this is the trip. So the drums come in from America. I basically did some more production on the track. The track then went out to Germany to be mixed. Now it will go back down to Italy. A guy called Astro down in Italy is doing my mastering. So it's really cool to kind of bounce stuff about the world. And then when you get it back, like Rise Like the Sun, which was like the single before this one that I've got out at the moment, that bounced around. That was like, the horns were done in Portugal. Again, a mixing was done in Italy. I had drums done in America. And it became, I had mixes done in Bulgaria, Colombia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? By
Yep.
the time I actually got that record together, it had bounced all around the world. And I just think that's the coolest thing ever. So, I don't have to necessarily be in a band anymore because I've got the world is the band.
That's great. That's
You know what I'm
great.
saying? If you look at what I've just said in the last two questions, so we don't do fans, we do global community.
Yep.
And we
It's great.
don't do solid bands. We do the world is the band. So there's two sort of breakthrough kind of thought processes just in that connotation.
It's amazing what you've been able to accomplish and put together and make happen, and just you should be very proud of all this, brother. You've done a heck of a lot here.
You know what? I think at the end of the day, you know, I think when you've had, when you start off with a little, you know, like you haven't had everything kind of like, you didn't get the kind of the bike, if you like, that the kid next door had because his mum and dad had more money. Do you know what I'm saying? But
Yes.
you did get sort of like a couple of wheels and a frame, and you had to put it together. It kind of makes you a little bit more tenacious. So when you do get sort of things that you've got, you know, you're able to make the most of it. Do you know what I mean? So the way I look at it, like,
Yep. Yep.
my studio is very basic. Do you know what I'm saying? The studio that I've got here, I try and keep it as basic as possible, and just get as much out of it as I possibly can. And people are quite amazed when they come in the studio and they go, "Oh, okay, so where's all your outboard gear?" And I go, "Well, I don't use that much kit." Do you know what I mean? But then, how are you getting that sound? And it's because you can't. You know, I think that, you know, if you, as I say, if you kind of know how to kind of work things without over embellishing, you can make a lot out of nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? It
Yes.
makes you
Yes.
it makes you a bit more resourceful. So with the internet, I'm just like, well, I'm like a kid in a candy store, because, like, do you know what I mean? Like,
That's awesome.
all online from, like, I've got lovely Inga, in Norway, one of the queens of Norway, amazing Viking lady who's kind of, you know, she's viewing in on Facebook right now, an amazing lady. And I've got Joe, my girlfriend, who's in the front room watching this live. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, and a few other people kind of tuning in from all around the globe. Do you know what
That's
I'm saying? So, you
great.
know what? It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing time that we live. It's a, you know, if we kind of like have the gratitude for what we have got, you know, then things become, you know, a bit more magical. And look, we're all going
Yeah.
through quite an incredible period of time. You know, it's probably, you know, for us, this is our moment, isn't it? Really, where our, you know, generation. I'm not saying it as hardcore as previous kind of, like, you know, situations like, you know, WW1, 2, and Vietnam and all that kind of thing, where that was
Yeah.
really, you know. But I think from, you know, from a point of view that everybody's been going through, you know, I mean, I call it a psyop because it is a psychological scenario
Yep.
going on, that
Yep.
people are being affected by, you know, by what's happened. Um, and I think that, you know, if we're like, life becomes like easier when we're good to each other. Do you know what I'm saying? When we listen
Yes.
to it, when
Yes.
when we say hello to a stranger in the street, that moment becomes magical. Like, you know, and I don't know if you've ever noticed it, that sometimes if you get up and you're just in a really good mood for just no reason, and you go about your day, and everything just flows, and people react to you differently, and they're smiling back at you because you're smiling, and it's because you're allowing the sort of the energy to flow through you in a way that actually becomes like a dynamo, and then that energy gets reflected back. So if we're living in that flow as much as we possibly can, then life becomes slightly easier because we're all together. Do
Yes.
you know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
I
You know,
completely agree with you, brother.
and I've said this before, but sort of like, if we can evolve beyond the kind of primitive thinking that we live in, we're taught to live in a primitive scarcity kind of like mentality, which makes us very, very much like wanting to fight over that last bit of meat, the morsel. You know, we want to kill for that morsel, but
Yes.
actually, the
Yes.
clever thing is to go, listen, I've got that morsel. Sure, I'm going to be a little bit hungry, but let me just give you a little bit of that morsel, and then we'll go about finding a bigger piece together. And that's how we evolved, and that's how we will evolve. If we start seizing up and going mine, then we're gonna actually create more rigidity within ourselves, and actually we create more scarcity because we're so tightly wound that we're not opening our avenues to sort of opportunities, because we're kind of living in a very tight framework. Do you know what I mean? But as I said,
I completely agree.
if you notice that when you're in a good space, everything will start flowing for you, because you're just going, yeah, look, the sun's shining. Hello over there, how you doing? Yeah, wicked. Oh, I'm having a good day. Are you having a good day? You know, and the whole your day is just like, it's booming, because you're, oh yeah, look, man, I can do that. Yeah, do you know? Oh yeah. So that geezer over there knows him. He's doing this. He's doing that over there. And suddenly you're going, oh, I just found another opportunity over there because I talked to that person. I was open to that. Suddenly, the whole abundance thing starts to work. The law of attraction thing starts to kick in, and you're now living. And then when you get back, you're like buzzing. I've just had the best day ever because like this, and this happened. Like, that can happen all the time. And you know, a lot of things. It's not always possible to be like that because biorhythms will change within us due to whatever's happening astrologically, happening for you emotionally. Do you know what I'm saying? But the more you become aware of those, you know, am I feeling the biorhythm that's out at the moment? And if you are, then that's the moment to sort of like to check in with yourself and go, okay, this isn't kind of necessarily how I want to be. So let me just kind of try and get myself into that more natural space that I want. It's about choosing, trying to choose. Once you're aware of where you want to be, so if you're aware of like the joyous experience of life, do you know what I'm saying? You'll go, that's what I want to be. All right, but now whatever's in my way is stopping me from being where I want to be. At least you've got conscious awareness to go, okay, I'm in a space that I'm not enjoying at the moment because of whatever else is going on in my head. I've got thoughts that are kind of trying to drive me crazy, blah, 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 blah. But the more you can stop, take that deep breath and go, yeah, okay, that's my space at the moment, but that's not where I want to be and that's not who I am. And if you become aware of that moment, then you become conscious. And when you become conscious, you can actually then do something about shifting your parameters to being in the space that you want to be. Does that make sense?
Oh, completely. Well, before we wrap up here on the Sunday show, how do we get in touch with you on social media, websites, download your music, stream your music, buy your music, everything?
So you can just, if you find Dara, DAR.RA, Dara, and if you just do a search of that, obviously if you go to the Spotify or Apple or any of the kind of usual suspects, you'll find me, not a problem. And if you search my record label, Kushdeep, that's KUSHA, Kusha Deep, DEEP, the label will come up and like, yeah, you can't avoid finding stuff. If you want to find my books, I've got 2 books out one's called Road Tales and one's called The Night That Jimmy Died, and that's actually my full name, which is Dara J Brady, DARRAGH J Brady. And yeah, you should be able to find all bits and pieces. There's a couple of really cool articles I've just done for London FM magazine. I've just made the cover of that as well. So yeah, look out for some new articles that I've been writing for a couple of different magazines. I've got another article out I just put out in magazine called Californian Pretty, which is obviously a California magazine, and it's basically how to surf the critics. So if you want some tips on basically how to kind of like avoid having your ideas crushed by negativity, have a little read of that. It's just come out like a couple of days back, so check that out, man. So yeah, well, I'm doing a lot of stuff in and out of the States in terms of sort of like writing for different magazines. I'm doing a radio show for BBS as well in Los Angeles. And Vintage FM in the UK, and that's the sort of monthly that I do. So yeah, I'm all over the joint, man. Do you know what I mean? You can't really miss me, like Lucky Star that you just interviewed a minute ago, man. You know what I mean? You can't really miss me. Maybe I should do a record with Lucky Star.
You might be able to. Hell, if she's singing in a choir, you might be able to.
You hook it up. Say I want to make a record with Lucky Star. I think
Well, I want you to hit me up on Twitter, my friend. You've got my Twitter handle, and I'm gonna. You hit me up on Twitter. I'm gonna try to make that happen because I'm just gonna tweak the crap out of Lucky Star till we get it done.
All right, brother. On Twitter, and I'll hit you up right now.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you making time for us today. Thanks for coming on, and I will talk to you real soon, my friend. Thank you.
All right, you take care of yourself.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you. You are fantastic, brother. We are going to take a time out. When we come back, we are going to be